Hey friends, I found out yesterday that a dear friend passed away. This is someone who was his name is Alan Jones. He was a reverend. He was the dean of San Francisco Cathedral for a number of years. But he also has been a family friend to my parents since before I was born, and to me from almost the day of my birth. I mean, I was talking to my mom this morning, and we spent Christmases at their house when we lived in New York City, which we left New York City when I was 2.5 years old. We moved to Greenwich. So, right from the beginning, he's the reverend who married my parents. He married my brother and his wife. He married me to my wife. Um, it's been a lifetime of receiving his direct insights and his stories. He was an avid storyteller, an avid and really excellent joke teller. He always had. I mean, that's one of the things I remember most about the episodes in which I encountered Alan was he always had jokes ready to go. He always had playful anecdotes about life, and he found a way to couch spiritual insights and just revelations of wisdom in really fun and playful nuggets of either rhetorical joy or um, he just had a playful spirit, and it meant that he made spiritual life and spiritual practice and even religion to some degree, which I've never been someone who has adopted a formal religion or practiced a formal religion or considered myself an adherent to any formal religion. Been around I've been to a church service or two. I've been on some Buddhist retreats. I've been on Vipassanas. I've spent a lot of time studying Hindu mysticism and listening to various spiritual teachers from various traditions speak. I've been someone who really, I feel like I've been pointed towards the truth by a number of incredibly wise people. But when I think about Alan as the from truly my very earliest days being a spiritual man, someone who devoted his life to God, and I think about his approach, which was always to live in the questions, to allow questions to broaden our understanding. Someone who clearly read a lot of scripture, knew scripture very well, but who insisted to the end of his life that scripture is a metaphor. All religion, all religious text, and all religious teaching is ultimately a kind of metaphor, which derives its value and its utility from its ability to communicate a kind of infinite truth, or a truth of infinite potentiality, through concrete terminology, metaphor, through the language of reality. We see through to a deeper reality. Through the language of a kind of tangible, concrete reality, we're able to see through to a deeper reality that may not even be expressible, but that we can know and that we can experience is very much how this is very much how Buddhist scripture works too. It acknowledge in right on the surface of the text, it acknowledges that it is not the thing it's pointing to. That doesn't mean it has no utility. No, otherwise it would have been discarded. It clearly does have utility in directing us towards a deeper reality, but it has a kind of, it has value in that it communicates something that goes beyond what it is. And that prevents us from ever sliding into dogmatism and being or clinging to beliefs because they make us feel good, but that don't actually expand our consciousness, that don't demand our vulnerability, that don't demand our 100% presence in the world. And when I realize I'm kind of, rambling about this, about this perspective, but when I think about how this is what Alan insisted upon throughout his entire life, and it makes perfect sense that I have ended up approaching spirituality and having an abiding interest in spiritual practice and spiritual pursuits very much in that vein, very much in that way of holding what it means to have a spiritual life. And so obviously, as he departs this world, it's registering with me how significant his impact has been. I read his latest book. My father actually did an audible recording of it. It's on Audible. It's called The Scandal of God. And The Scandal of God, in a lot of ways, summarizes that, the point of view, and unpacks it, and really kind of draws it out in a nuanced way. And as I read that book, I realized, my God, this is truly, it was like my tradition was speaking to me. It was like the way I have gone about my own holding of, for example, scientific truth bumping up against spiritual truth. These things are not in conflict. It's only by erroneously understanding one or the other, or both, that we can ever perceive them as being in conflict. And that's something that has been just baked into the way I approach life and the way I think about these things. I guess from the time I was born, or sometime early on, whenever it is you start thinking about these things, whenever it is that you start registering information that's relevant to that ultimate perspective that I think comes online as an awareness a little bit later in life. But I've been that's been baked into me from the very beginning. And watching him go isn't another thing that it evokes for me, is just why I've been so comfortable assuming that a central feature of my life would be spiritual practice. I don't know that that's unique. I think a lot of people on some level have that, and I think maybe more and more we're able to acknowledge that to ourselves. I think we're coming into an era when it's slightly easier to be available to the kind of nature of life as a spiritual experience, the nature of life as a finite expression of something ultimately infinite. and hold those two truths, those two realities right up alongside each other without there being a conflict. But I don't think that it's mainstream yet. And I feel like I was just very fortunate to have been born into that stream. So and on a much more just simple human level, I think back to the contact that we've had, the vacations we've had together, the chapters of our life that we've spent together. You know, I have memories of being in their house in New York years ago. I mean, all the way back to, like, I don't know, when I was maybe 5, 6 years old or even younger. And he's been one of my parents' closest friends for the entirety of their life as I've known them. Certainly the entirety of their marriage, because he's the one who married them. And he's one of the elements. You know, I often look at my own parents' life, early life together, and you know, I came on the scene a couple of years in. But there was a kind of just magical beauty, a kind of, you know, when I think about, like, the childlike magic, the magic of life as a child, there's something so remarkable, something so beautiful about it. And I think Alan had something to do with that. I think he provided a grounding in what is ultimately a really rigorous spiritual path, and a path of deep commitment, a sense of responsibility, a sense that the choices we make matter and the life we lead matters, combined with a sense that life is joy. Every moment of life is joy. Every moment of life is an experience that has the potential to be transcendent, to take us beyond the minutia, beyond any challenge or problem we might be facing, into the miracle of life. And so there's both a rootedness and a sense of tetheredness to a practice and a tradition and an ethical interrelational framework that deserves respect and that deserves care, while at the same time liberation, while at the same time being cut loose from restriction and cut loose from anything that might weigh us down, allowing us to fly, allowing us to live the most enthusiastic, joyful, fun, playful, beautiful life we can imagine. That's what else could you ask for as an imprinting of what life is all about, and particularly spiritual life is all about? So I just feel an incredible gratitude to have had Alan in my life, and to have been affected by his mind by His Spirit. So there'll be grief and joy as this transition takes place. But He's left behind a lot of joy. That's where I am today, folks. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. Have a great day. See you soon.